In recent years, we've all been hearing a lot about consent. Learning how to start conversations about it, the ways we can indicate a yes or a no, and respecting the choices of others when it comes to sex and relationships. Together, we've made real progress as a community, making consent education mandatory in schools,
holistic and age-appropriate consent lessons,
starting important conversations,
We need to stop telling victims to avoid it, and we need to start telling perpetrators not to do it.
and shifting how we think about relationships and boundaries.
The vast majority of sexual violence is preventable. I really do think that.
But there's still more work for all of us to do to understand how we can practice consent in our everyday lives.
We often hear consent is simple, or that it's just a set of rules we have to learn and follow. But in reality, it can be complex and requires practice and ongoing communication. The ways we communicate and practice consent can be different from person to person, but the basic stuff we need to follow is the same for everyone.
Let's get into it. Consent needs to be affirmative and communicated, free and voluntary, ongoing and mutual. And it needs to come from people who have capacity to consent, are informed about what they're agreeing to, and are genuinely on board. Let's dive in. Affirmative consent is a clear and confident yes. Much more than just they didn't say no. This yes can look different for each of us. It might be verbal, like I really want to, I'm into this, or that feels good. Or non-verbal, like leaning in, a cheeky smile, and open body language. When checking for affirmative consent, we want to see a few of these signs of a yes. Communicating consent takes practice at first, and you should do it in ways that make you feel comfortable.
The best way to go about it is to just be upfront.
Is this okay with you? Are you okay? Are you comfortable?
It's kind of like a mutual come together. You don't just chase them.
Definitely acknowledge body language and listen, I think, is the biggest thing.
Always got to be as easy to say no as it is to say yes.
You've got to keep sort of making sure they're okay with it.
You end up trusting that person a lot more because they're like, oh, they actually care and they want to make sure I'm okay and they want me to feel comfortable.
Consent also goes way beyond sex, and you're probably more used to practicing it than you think. It's seeing whether your friend is cool with a hug or would rather have space when they're feeling down, or making sure someone's okay with you posting a photo of them at the beach on Instagram. It's about that thoughtful check-in. Hey, is this all good? These small moments of respect actually make our connections stronger because they show we're tuned in to what others need.
Consent intertwines with everything. Any interaction you have with another human being, there will almost always be consent involved.
It's all about showing respect to each other and always know where each other stand.
It doesn't need to be in a sexual context. It can be in a platonic context of asking, is it okay if I give you a hug right now?
At the end of the day, that's what we're checking. We're checking if someone's okay with that behaviour and if that is comfortable for them and sits right with them.
So say you're starting something intimate and the person responds with, I guess, or shrugs. Sure, it might be because they're shy and still interested, but there could be other things going on too. Some people assume that if the other person doesn't physically resist or doesn't say a hard no, that means yes, but that's not the case.
There are signs other than the word no. And I don't think I realised that until much later in life.
You know, you're just looking for those signs all the time.
Affirmative consent means it's on you to actively seek consent somehow. It should always be super clear if they want to go ahead with something. And remember, silence is not consent.
Here are some pointers if you're not sure if someone's into it. 1, just ask them. Are you keen to keep going? Or does this still feel good for you? 2, read body language. Are they enthusiastic or hesitant? If they're pulling away, avoiding your eye contact, or closing off their body, that's a sign of non-consent. But if they're leaning in, touching your arm, and they seem calm and happy, then that probably means they're having a good time. 3, create easy exits. Like, we can stop or slow down at any time, or we could just chill instead. And if you're in a room alone with someone, avoid locking the door without asking their permission first. 4, be mindful of the different ways people communicate. This is especially important to consider for people with disability or neurodiversity. Some people are super vocal and others say everything with their bodies and facial expressions. Getting to know the person you're with and their communication style is really important.
Remember, if you can't tell it's a definite yes, it's not a go. Even if it feels awkward or weird at first, check in if you're not 100% sure.
Just constant check-ins. Like, I've never felt more safe with someone in an intimate setting than if they are constantly asking me, is that okay?
Is this okay? If they say yeah, you still keep going. And the moment they say no, you stop.
Just being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, goes a long way for helping you make the right decisions in that moment.
The longer you know someone, the more you'll understand their communication style. But for first encounters with someone, it's always good to explicitly ask.
Free and voluntary means that consent can't be given if someone is feeling pressured or forced into something. Consent isn't genuine if someone has been guilt-tripped, manipulated, begged, or worn down to say yes after saying no repeatedly. Saying things like, if you really love me, you would, or if you don't do this, then we're over, crosses a line. That's manipulation. If you ask and they say no, or even I'm not sure, repeating the question until the answer changes to fine is technically called sexual coercion. Coercion is not consent, and in some cases, it's considered sexual assault.
We also have to be careful about power imbalances. That's when two people have unequal power. For example, if someone's older or is in a position of authority, like a boss, teacher, or coach, it may create an imbalance of power that makes it harder for the other person to freely say no. Even being a few years older than someone can contribute to an imbalance due to life experience, particularly the younger you are. That's why large age differences, boss and worker relationships, or how much money someone makes can complicate consent. The person with less power might feel like they can't refuse without consequences, such as losing a job or damaging their reputation. So if you're in a position of power, it's on you to do everything you can to recognise when someone might not be able to consent.
Consent isn't a one-time thing, it's ongoing. It's not as simple as getting consent once and then treating that as an endless green light. It needs to be considered as dynamic and practiced the whole time. Maybe you start kissing someone and then realise you're not into it, you've had a few too many drinks, or you're just not in the right headspace. Or maybe you've discussed going further with someone and you've planned it for a certain night and then you just don't feel up to it. Trust that feeling, if you have it, and listen to it. It's totally normal for people to change their minds. Feelings change midway, new boundaries pop up, which makes it important to keep checking in.
Some people worry that checking in again kills the vibe.
I think some people may find it awkward because it's like they want something so badly and it's just like another step.
I don't think it's awkward. I think it's definitely necessary. For me, I would just want to know where that person's head is at.
Asking for consent is sexy.
Laugh about it and make it fun and be like, I want to do this. How do you feel about it?
Try saying these types of things to check in. How does this feel? Want to keep going? Should we try something else? You all right? Need a breather? Want to cuddle for a bit? If they smile and say, I feel great, that's a confidence boost for everyone. If your partner says, actually I need to stop, or their body language changes when you ask, respect it. Don't get defensive or angry. Don't act like they did something wrong or like they've disappointed you. Everyone has the right to change their mind at any point, and that includes you.
We get it. Sometimes it can feel awkward, but like any skill, it's easier with practice. Ongoing and mutual consent makes intimacy a better experience for everyone.
So let's imagine you're vibing with someone at a house party and you feel like you're on. Maybe, but maybe not. Or maybe at first, but not later in the night. The point is, it can change moment to moment. When we consider consent, we also need to consider the capacity of the other person. That is, whether the other person can make a clear decision. If someone's been drinking a lot or has taken drugs, that can also affect their capacity to genuinely consent. If they're slurring words, having trouble focusing, or tripping over a lot, these are signs that they're drunk and too out of it to consent. A person who's asleep or unconscious absolutely can't consent. Might sound obvious, but it does happen a lot. And think back to consent being affirmative and communicated. How can someone communicate at all when they're asleep?
They can't. If they're telling you they're keen, but you think they're a bit out of it, then you can hang out with them until they sober up. See how you both are in a few hours. And capacity can also be impacted by things like age, cognition, disability, or a power imbalance. The bottom line, if someone doesn't have the capacity to consent, whether that's from drinking or their emotional state or another reason, it's always best not to start anything.
Consent is specific to each action, each time. If someone is keen for a makeout session, it doesn't mean they owe you anything further or have automatically consented for the night. If a condom was part of the deal, you can't secretly ditch it. That's non-consensual, and it's actually got a name, stealthing. And as of last year, it's also illegal in many states and territories in Australia. Informed consent means everyone needs to know what they're agreeing to. That can include talking about sexual health, contraception methods, and boundaries around different sexual acts. Responsibility for these convos belong to everyone involved, not just one partner.
This can be another point where things can feel a bit awkward, but it's really important to have these conversations. Like, did you bring a condom? I don't want to have sex unless we use a condom. How far do you want to go tonight? That way, everyone knows what's going down. And if you want to change things up, ask if they're keen. If they're into it, go for it.
Finally, genuine means everyone is truly on board. You may have heard the term enthusiastic consent. In general, you should be intimate with people who are giving you a hell yes. However, like we said, everyone has different communication styles and relationships. For example, in long-term relationships, we're usually more comfortable and relaxed with our partner. Consent might be said or shown in more low-key ways, but it can still be a real yes.
Maybe you want to, but your head's in it, but like physically you're tired.
The same goes for situations where it's your first time with someone. You might be a bit nervous or shy. That's okay. As long as you're still comfortable and you really want to proceed, that can be genuine consent too.
Here's what that might sound like. I'm tired, but I want to. I'm keen, but I want to keep my top on. I'm not 100% sure I'd like that, but I'd like to try. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'd like to, but can we take it slow? Notice how each example has some limits, but also a clear affirmation. So long as everything else we've just discussed is present, then this is still consent. And remember, you can always stop something after you've started it if you're no longer into it or comfortable, and this withdrawal has to be respected.
So that's it, the principles of consent. Affirmative and communicated, free and voluntary, ongoing and mutual, reflective of their capacity, specific and informed, and genuine.
Consent helps build respect, confidence, and trust.
It's not about checking boxes or following rules. It's a conversation and it prioritizes the safety and pleasure of the people we're with.
The more we practice this, the more natural and enjoyable it becomes. If you've experienced situations where your right to consent wasn't respected, or if you're supporting someone who has experienced this, remember there is support and resources available.